There are a lot of times in protest where we need to be following the people who are the most impacted, the people who are most close to whatever the issue is, and so being in solidarity with those folks is how we are taking part in it.
Welcome to this very important episode of Tiny Pulpit Talks. I'm Reverend TJ FitzGerald, and this is
Reverend Beth Dana.
We're here to talk to you about one of the great traditions of people of faith forever. It's kind of in our nature, which is protest, which is making voices heard, lifting voices, speaking truth to power. Those things are vital to our identity as people of faith, and certainly as Unitarian Universalists. Am I right?
Absolutely. It's connected to our core values and theologies, really.
Right. Yep. Some of our greatest leaders, some of our most important prophets are people who were able to organize, to gather, to galvanize the will of people together in the streets, in other ways. But one of the most important things about doing this, rather than just talking about protest, because we know you're going to protest, we hope you're going to protest things, is to do it in a way that recognizes some of the really important aspects of protest as being a tapestry that holds an entire movement and not just one idea going out into the street, right? One of the things to think about first, I have some notes, I'm going to open this up, is just we have to think about our location as a person.
Yep.
Right? Like, who
are you? What identities and experiences are you bringing to this? Yeah.
Right. Because just thinking about my own safety can disregard the safety of those around me or could make problems for people around me, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the things to think about, to be really specific about safety, if you're going to an event that has speakers, the safest place to be at a protest is by the stage where there are going to be speakers, because that's the place that's been permitted. That's the place where there's going to be the most crowd sort of observation and where people are going to be able to hear instructions from a microphone directly from someone in front of them who can see the entire area. So if you're thinking of going to something that has speakers, consider getting to the area where there are speakers first. This is just a basic thinking about this. If you're out blocking traffic, for instance, that's a very different consideration. What are the things you're going to have to think about before you decide whether I'm going to go block traffic or do something that really starts to grind on the gears of whatever we want to grind on?
Yeah, it's a little riskier.
Right.
So you have to be prepared for that risk and for potentially being arrested, or which I'm sure you're going to get to.
Thank you. That leads right into it. One of the most important things about being arrested, and this is just brass tacks, things you might not be thinking about, is if you're planning to be arrested is a very different thing than maybe deciding later you're going to be arrested. If you're planning to be arrested, you need to think about whether you've got enough cash for bail. In Dallas, criminal mischief or failure to disperse is going to be roughly a $1,500 charge. So you're going to need between 10 and 20% of that in cash, either you or somebody else, in order to get out on bail. So that's just one thing. The other is often people will take your phone. So you need to decide whether you're going to bring your own phone or whether you're going to bring a burner phone when you're going to one of these things. I know it starts sounding like we're in some alternate universe, but a lot of us are living in what feels like an
alternate universe, yes.
And so having a phone that's your own phone has some advantages, but it has disadvantages. But the best thing to do is to memorize 2 or 3 numbers, and if you can't remember the number, is you can write it on your forearm, right? You write it on these forearms, and so you can just remember, and you have to write them big because of something else we're going to talk about in a little bit. So these are just some of the things that you need to be planning. If you're not planning to be arrested, one of the most important things to do is to stay away from anyone who you start to sense is trying to get arrested. It's not everyone's in Hawaii they say kuleana. I don't know why that's the word that's coming out, but it's not everyone's deal to be arrested and to do that. So, have you ever been in any large protests?
I've been in a number of large protests. Going back to anti-war protests in the early 2000s, like when all of that was starting up, I was in college. Occupy Wall Street when I was in New York. I took a group of high schoolers there. That was fun. From the UU Church.
Yeah.
And, things in Dallas here, like some Black Lives Matter marches and, marches against police brutality. The Women's March, that was a big one.
Yeah. I was in Portland, Oregon during the first administration in 2016, and there was an enormous march. And as we've seen on TV, Portland has a very strange history with areas that can get very, really intense in a few square blocks. And so I received a lot of nonviolent direct action training, as all the ministers who had churches downtown did, because we needed it. So, Dallas isn't laid out in the same way as a lot of cities where like the federal building's right downtown and there's like all the churches around there and everything just gets kind of crammed together. It's not really how Dallas works.
No, there isn't like a central park or kind of. I guess City Hall is the closest we have to that.
So some of the other things to just think about, and you might have some thoughts about this, but if you're going, do not wear sandals, do not wear flip-flops. You have to wear closed-toed shoes, partly because there are people around and you might need to run if something happens. But all that being said, running is never actually the best scenario because all of these protests outside have curbs, have other things in the road, like those bike lane things that you might not see. You really should not run in these situations. Even when something starts happening near you, it's best to firmly walk in the other direction as fast as possible.
Yeah, because running, if a bunch of people just start running, it can also kind of escalate things unnecessarily sometimes, because everybody starts freaking out.
Right. If you're going to get into some of those moments, bringing a backpack that has a drawstring is better than a purse. Carrying your purse is not, there's a lot of reasons why not to, but I love a good purse, don't get me wrong. I'm just saying, like a backpack with a drawstring. A face covering, if needed, is also good. And covering as much of your body as you can is important. And I'm not assuming this is going to happen, but since it's happening in other cities, we just need to talk a little bit about tear gas and what that really is. It's a crystal powder that gets dispersed through smoke or through steam. What's the one thing you should never do when you realize you've come in contact with tear gas?
Rub your eyes.
Rub your eyes. Do not do
Don't
it.
do it.
And do not rub your nose or your mouth. What will happen is you force those crystals that are resting on your skin into your skin. And so the best thing to pack in that backpack are squirty water bottles. You want like 3 of them. 1 to drink and 2 for your eyes or for your skin or for someone else that you need. And so that's another thing to keep in mind. There are many other things to consider, lots of good resources about this, but we know our people are planning to go to some of these things. We know some of you are going to some of these things. So people with some experience, we just thought you should hear from your ministers that this isn't just like wackadoo things to be thinking about. These are real concerns that activists have been facing for generations, and you are part of that and should know this wisdom too.
Yeah, and show up and be prepared.
Right. And speaking of showing up, this is another thing to really consider. If you are a person of color in Dallas, you may not feel like doing the same thing as someone who is white in Dallas and can show up, or who presents in a certain way. It doesn't even matter what we may identify as. How we think law enforcement will perceive us is really part of the question. So having some frank and clear discussions about what you are comfortable doing and what others are comfortable doing in a group is important.
Yep.
And sometimes part of solidarity building isn't just running into the fray, it's being with our friends who don't feel they can run into the fray. That is also part of the work.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah.
one of the things that when you have these numbers of people to call, some people don't bring their phones at all to protests because if a state decided to track you or a federal government decided to track you, they'd have your phone information. So what some people do, if they can't go to the protests, say they have an ability difference that the roads just don't work for them, they can be the volunteer hub coordinator. So what sometimes people do is they'll say at 4 o'clock, I'll call you. I know you're going to be home and you're going to stay home, and us 5 people will check in at 4 p.m. and let you know we're okay. If you don't hear from one of us by 6 p.m., start calling our friends because we might have gotten arrested. Like that kind of coordination, if you're not someone who can go to the rally or go to something, but you want to take part, is another really important way.
Yep.
I mean, those kinds of
Yeah.
organizations.
Yeah.
Occupy was great at that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Having these different layers of support, and not everybody's in the thick of it, marching in the streets.
Exactly. And so another thing you can do is you could get like a bunch of squirty things of water and stay a little bit away where you could still hear things, and just let people know that if they need it, it's here, whether it be for tear gas or for water or things like that. The numbers that you want to write down, I said numbers. You want like a buddy who knows exactly where you are, and ideally a lawyer on the other one. And the buddy should be someone with enough money to bail you out if necessary, or you leave them with money. And if you don't know a lawyer, the buddy who you're writing down should also be there. And don't use Sharpie, use whatever you can to get it off. And then a really important thing, I know we talked about tear gas, we talked about other things. If you see a weapon of any kind in any situation, this is just us as your pastors and ministers talking now, walk in the other direction. If you see a weapon come out, for now, unless you are trained or you really know what to do, please do not take that as anything other than the very real threat to your well-being that it is. Consider that. If you're someone who that doesn't scare in any way, okay. But we need to tell you that is not a good idea.
Yeah.
So.
And it's okay to move away from that.
Right. So we've covered some of the nuts and bolts, but what are some of the things, I mean, when I have done protests, one of the things that has really helped me is, it sounds funny, but is singing. We sing together. There is nothing scarier to fascists than everyone knowing the same song that is loving and challenging and good. And so learning some of those songs is also good.
Yeah.
I Shall Not Be Moved is a very good one.
Yeah. We Shall Overcome is another one that's often sung.
Yep.
There's a lot of those songs we love to sing in UUism, like, we are a gentle, angry people, and Spirit of Life sometimes.
Spirit of Life.
Sometimes that is the spirit we need to call into the space. Yeah.
And then if singing isn't the right moment, chanting whoever's got the microphone is chanting is also good, and yelling and speaking truth to power. So, yeah. What are some of the experiences you had during these, or anything you saw that was uplifting, or things that people should be watching for?
Well, you referred to Occupy Wall Street, and I think one of the things in my experience of spending some time there that was really amazing is just seeing how many different roles there were. It was very organized. There were, the food people, and the first aid and safety people, and the reading material people, and there were chaplains. I mean, there was, the seminary I was at, there were a group of us who would regularly go down to Wall Street and just be there and be present as chaplains. And so there's a lot of ways to be present in a protest. I think when people think of protests, they're thinking of marching and yelling and chanting, but that's not the only way. That there are a lot of roles that make that kind of really loud vocal protest possible, and safe, and effective, and supported, and all of that.
When I was marching once in Hawaii, it was for an indigenous rights thing, and a group of Native Americans flew from their nation in what some people call the United States. To Hawaii just to be present for, just to show their support. They didn't actually march because there was something some protocol that I don't know
Yeah.
that didn't let them, but just seeing them there and knowing that the indigenous people of Hawaii could go talk to them if they needed support was like a chaplaincy, was this kind of community feeling of solidarity. That's important. And that's one of the questions in this, like support is solidarity. Like if you are wondering how to help in these situations, supporting others who are doing this work is part of being in solidarity with them. And solidarity is what we need to overcome some of the worst things that the humankind has ever had to overcome in its history. There's no one group can do it alone.
Right, right. And the thing about solidarity too, I think that's important is it means that not everybody has to be the one out in front leading and organizing things. Like there are a lot of times in protest where we need to be following the people who are the most impacted, the people who are most close to whatever the issue is, and so being in solidarity with those folks is how we are taking part in it.
And taking a step back when it's clear who is most deeply impacted. When I see someone whose population is the population that is being impacted and they are leading, my role is to follow.
Yeah.
And it's clear, and to support and to be there. And I don't need to give them suggestions. It's going to be fine.
Yep.
I mean, that's one of those moments too. So understanding where we are located in what is going on
Back to where we began.
Exactly. So these are just some ideas from your ministers. I know we've got some work ahead of us, and all that work looks different, but we love you and we want you to be as safe as you can be and as safe as you want to be in light of what you are holding and the lives you are defending and what you stand for as a person of worth and dignity in this world. So.
And we support you and cheer you on in living your UU values.
Yes. And there are many, many resources through the ACLU and through other sources online. I would encourage you to let this not be your first or last stop on this journey that you're making, and to educate yourself and share those resources when you find them. No one can get enough of being prepared to face what we are all facing together. Okay? Hear me? I need a yes. Okay, good. I'll take that. Well, be well out there, and no matter what you're choosing to do, and we, one way or the other, we hope to see you very soon on Sunday. That's it from Tiny Pulpit Talks, and have a wonderful, wonderful time.
Take care.
Take care.